What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. Branamier, Courtney, as always, here with Paul McClain,
My man.
helping people level up in all the areas that matter most, whether it's your faith, family, fitness, finances, or their franchise. Our heart, our desire, our prayer is that we would help you get a little bit better every single day. There's something on the inside of you that says, man, there's more to me. There's another level. And we're here for the next, I don't know, maybe 35, 45, maybe an hour, just trying to help you get to that next place where you could and should be in your life. And so today is a good podcast. Not all the time do we have guests. Most of the times we just bounce ideas and thoughts off each other. But every once in a while, man, we'll bring someone in here that could just encourage us,
Yeah.
inspire us, and really help us get to the next level. And so, Paul, I'll toss it to you, man. But
Well, I appreciate it, man. Hey, like I said, every week it's exciting to be on here. This is time that I value. I think everybody should have time in their schedule where it's specifically blocked out to help you elevate and get better. And for me, this feeds me well. Just having these candid conversations that we've had and tackling different topics, it serves as great reminders every week and just gives me some new insight and really revelation to go out there and be the best version of myself.
right.
Today, guys, we've got a guest. Like you said, we don't always have a guest. But when we do have a guest, the guest is specifically handpicked in order to bring you great value. And I know this guest really well. In fact, we're going to really tackle and jump into more of like the franchise business part of it, finance part of it. Isaiah is a guy that I've been closely working with for years and years and years. I've seen him build a massive successful business in insurance, and then he's transitioned and also building a business alongside that in real estate and seen some great success. And so above all that, he's just a human being that loves people, serves people, values people, and really, I guess, a great example of living a leveled up life. You know, he's got his. Are you married yet, dude?
I am married, bro.
You're married. Okay, that's right. And
Yep.
so, by the way, congratulations again. How
Thanks.
long have you been married for now?
2 years.
2 years. No babies yet.
No babies yet. We got
Okay,
two dogs, basically like babies.
that
But
is like a baby.
Bro, you stick around this podcast long enough, you're gonna have some babies.
Yeah.
Between me and Paul, we got nine. So
Law of attraction. Caroline, she might be pregnant at the end of this just because of that's taking place. But hey, man, I just want to say welcome to the podcast, man. It's a pleasure to have you on, brother.
Isaiah Tademy, let's
And
go, man.
thank you for joining us, man.
Dude, I really appreciate the opportunity, man. And Paul, obviously, I have a ton of respect for you. Heard really good things about your brother-in-law, so I'm really excited to kind of hash this thing out, and hopefully, I can give some positive words today, and hopefully, I received some from you guys as well. So I'm excited for it.
Well, I know for a fact you're definitely going to provide some great value. In fact, before we even ask the first question, you guys got to make sure to like this, subscribe, share it with somebody. That's a simple way to help give back and impact somebody in a very indirect way that they can look back and say, man, I'm just grateful that that person simply shared. And so, Isaiah, kind of start with like a little bit about yourself, man, your story, background. I know college basketball, business. How'd you get into it? Were you always entrepreneur minded? What did that look like? Because I think a lot of people on here today, some of them are in business, some are looking to start a business. And so kind of talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up playing basketball my entire life. You can't really tell on camera, but I'm 6'6", super tall, light-skinned dude. So everywhere I go, everyone just assumes I played basketball, right? But I was fortunate enough to play at the college level, and that paid for my education. I lived in a household, mom and dad, they put a lot of pressure on me to go to school, just kind of the traditional thing, right? And so that's what I did. I literally lived, breathed, and eat basketball. It was literally my entire life. Right out of school, I'm running drills with my dad. I'm meal prepping with my parents. Like we're locked in. And the ultimate dream for me was to play at the professional level. And I was convinced that that's what my path was, and that's what I was going to do. And so I went the college route, and what I started learning at the college level. 'Cause in high school, I was a really good high school player, one of the top players in the state of Utah. And college, I was playing really well as well. But one thing that you realize is like the level of competition, because the best high school players play college ball, and the best college guys play professional ball. And I realized at the college level, like, dude, I'm just kind of an average guy out here. I'm 6'6", I'm strong, I'm really athletic, but dude, so is everyone else. You know what I mean? And so it gets to my senior year. And I have opportunities to go play overseas in Europe, but these aren't like really big contracts. You can go out there and make 100, maybe 200 grand a year playing professional ball. And it was always a dream of mine. But I have a lot of colleagues and friends that went that route. And when they come back to the States, because in sports, you're in your mid 30s. You're kind of old at that point, right? And these guys were coming back to the States in their mid 30s and they're trying to get entry level jobs. And that kind of scared me, because I knew, it was a gut punch, but I knew I wasn't skilled enough to make millions of dollars playing basketball. And I had to just come to that realization, right? So I made the ultimate decision and to turn my life completely upside down. And I dropped basketball and I went and got a corporate job, man. So I got a business degree in business management from the school I went to. And I was literally just online looking for jobs. The first one that I applied for was a trucking manager at a big trucking company. And I said, let's just give it a shot. They gave me a shot. I did the interview. They gave me the job right on the spot. And I was too scared to tell them, hey, I'm still kind of weighing my options. So I shook their hand right then and there on the spot. And I took the very first job interview I've ever done in my life. And so I've always been a really high performer, very competitive. And that's just because of, my parents that really instilled that in me with sports and being, just being an athlete. And so I took my work very, very, very serious. I was the youngest guy there at that company. But I just take a lot of pride in it, and I worked really, really hard. And I was able to be one of the top producers at that company in a short amount of years. And I always tell the story. So one of the days we went out for a lunch with a lot of our colleagues, and some people are getting some drinks, for lunch. And when people start drinking a little bit, maybe they kind of share a little too much information, right? And everyone started talking about their salaries. And I was like, wait. I'm the highest performer here, but I'm by far the lowest paid. And that's just because of my tenure. That's just how corporate America works, right? And that really, really bothered me. So, a few weeks later, I put in a request to have some time off for vacation. And that was denied because someone else was taking a vacation at that time. And I was like, all right, I've got to find a job where I will be paid based on my performance, not necessarily my tenure. And that's kind of when I started looking around and I stumbled across the insurance business. And I fell in love right away, man, because I knew this was the vehicle that I wanted. I can be the competitive guy that I want, that I am, and I can be paid truly based on what I put into it. And, so that was January of 2019 when I started the insurance business. And fast forward now, we have an insurance agency with over 200 writing agents selling millions and millions of dollars a year of insurance. So, and Paul, obviously I learned a lot from you there as well. And so that was kind of my journey into entrepreneurship. I felt like I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I just didn't really know how I was going to do it. And that was just a vehicle for me. So.
Well, dude, the one thing I want to point out too is having enough self-awareness, right? And Brent, we've talked a lot about this, to know all right, this season is now coming to pass and where do I need to go adjust and move to be the best I can be in this next season that's before me. And I think that's a very hard thing to go through. And as you kind of pointed to, man, it wasn't easy, but I kind of came to the conclusion of all right, I'm not going to make millions of dollars in basketball. So let me pause real quick and say, what's my next best move? And I just love how you served that season with excellence, with everything you had, whether that was meal prepping as a young kid. You never sat back and said, let me drop down a little bit because I don't really think this is going to be where I'm going to flourish or be here long term. No, you gave it your all the way until the last minute, but you're enough self-aware to say, hey, where should I go now? What's my next best move? I'm competitive, right? I want to win. I like business. And so let me do this. And then even to the point where you had that conversation, you could either easily said, well, I'm just going to have to endure the years and eventually I'll get those guys' salaries. But you're enough self-aware to say, man, I'm a competitor. And this isn't right. I want to be in a production, like a producer state environment that the producer gets rewarded. And I just think that's important, man. I think that, two takeaways I'd say just from the intro would be, one, ask yourself, is my awareness at the right level to know, is this the season I'm supposed to still be in? Or has God called me into a different season, but I don't want to let go of this because it's just what I wanted? Because sometimes what you wanted is not what's needed from you to go out there and serve the next season. That's going to really take you to the fulfillment in the place that you need to be. And the second thing is, or if you're still going to be there for a period of time, are you serving that season with your whole heart? Or are you saying, well, my boss is this, or this situation is that, or because of this, I'm just giving it a little bit? No, man, you got to serve it with your full heart, because if you serve that season with your full heart, the door will open up and God will let you walk into the next door because you've served the one with your full heart as if you're working unto God, not for any human master situation, but no, I'm serving this with excellence. And now that door opens that would have never opened if you're just half-heartedly just kind of getting by. And I just think that's an important thing to kind of highlight, because I think most people mess it up, man.
Yeah, I love it because I'm listening to your story, man. And so for me, I played high school football, went the college route, and so as you're talking, I'm reminiscing, back on my journey as well. And I remember my senior year of college, a lot of the guys were going to play in Europe. I remember I went to a combine, not the NFL combine, but they had like all the lower tier combines that you can go to. And I remember showing up there, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to the NFL, bro. Like this is not it. And so I remember contemplating going and playing in Germany, and the contracts were just crazy. And so I started working too. And so there was like that period of my life where I was trying to figure out like, who am I? Because my whole entire life I had played football and everything is super structured. And then you
Hmm.
get a regular job and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So as he's talking, I'm reminiscing and then I'm reflecting even with my own boys right now that we're on this journey, right? Every kid has a dream to be pro. And so there's so many good takeaways that come from sports, but there is a time in life where you got to go, well, maybe I'm not
Yeah.
the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. But the good thing is all those life lessons that were learned along the way, you can now take and put into a different purpose in a different season, a different time.
Yeah.
And so talk about maybe just the transition from maybe trucking into insurance. How was that? Like, did it feed that competitive edge for you? Or was it like, okay, now I have something I could really finally step into and be who, yeah, maybe I could apply all my skills into that right season? Because that was it for me. When I got a 9 to 5 job, man, I was lost. I quit 2 or 3 jobs before I started my own business, and it was just a struggle. And then once I was finally like out on my own, I was like, now everything rests on my shoulders. Now I can perform. Now if I win, it's on me, or if I lose, it's on me. Was it kind of like the same for you?
Hey, you guys, by the way, have like the same. I'm sitting here thinking you guys have the same story, because then you got an insurance.
We're probably cousins, bro.
Once you got like it's
Probably are.
very
Yeah, I
similar
got
story.
insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brandon got an insurance too, but he got in at a season that was very difficult to join. Right. That was before you got Isaiah. We had to figure things out. It was a little easier for you when you guys started. When Brand got started, then it was a disaster, right? And so, but anyways, very similar,
But then
man.
pivoted from there and started my own company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very similar.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, man, very same feelings that you experienced. I was really stressed. I mean, financially, I was doing okay because I was really young. I didn't really have that many bills. I had roommates. I owned my own house at that point. So I bought a house with the salary that I had. I was able to qualify for a loan at least. And I had roommates, so like I was making like $100 a month with all the rent from all the rooms I was renting out for my friends. So I wasn't financially stressed, but I was stressed out because I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Right. And yeah, yeah. So, I had even, it's kind of counterintuitive because you go into a business that's now, you don't have the safety net of the weekly salary that comes in. You only kill what you eat in the commission-based world, right? But I still had a sense of peace where I was like, ah, I'm free, right? And when you work the corporate world, there's like this, people say that you escape on the weekends, like, because you're escaping from your job. Can't wait for Friday night or the weekend, to escape the world. And I definitely experienced that. I remember on Wednesday, I'm like, okay, just 2 more days until it's Friday. And I remember kind of going through those emotions. So, yeah, the transition to insurance in the beginning, um, financially, I did feel a little bit of pressure for sure because it was something new I was learning. A little bit introverted, so like we were doing everything face to face. I'm like knocking on people's doors. That was a really, definitely a big learning curve for me. But I figured, what's worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, I'm a very employable person. I've got a business degree. Let me give this everything that I've got, just kind of like everything I've done in my past. I'm gonna give this everything that I've got. Worst case scenario, I can always, I always have some sort of backup plan. So I gave it everything that I got. And there was a lot of seasons where I felt like it wasn't for me. I remember calling this funny. I remember calling my mom after an insurance appointment, and the appointment that I had, the guy was like asking me all these questions. He's kind of he knew that I was new, and he was definitely um, You
Mess.
know, he was definitely messing with me, and he knew I was stressing out. And I wasn't making eye contact with him. I was freaking out. He was asking like really high level questions I didn't really know how to answer. And I left that appointment without the cell. And I remember sitting in my car, and I was 30 minutes late to my next appointment. I remember calling my mom in the car. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what I did. Like, I had a great salary, you know, bills were paid. I'm literally driving around and I don't even know where I'm at right now, knocking on doors, trying to sell these guys insurance. And like, people are laughing at me. I feel like an idiot. What, I got a degree. Like, what am I doing with my, like, I got a degree and I'm out here knocking in the blizzard and the cold and like Utah. What am I doing? And, I remember my mom just kind of giving me the you know the reassurance, just the motherly love, you know. And she told me just to give it everything that I got that day. And I actually ended up getting a sale my very last appointment that day. And I'm like, okay, all right, I can breathe today. And you know, you just kind of go through seasons like that. But you know, kind of what I learned from sports is like you can't really get too high, you can't really get too low either. It's like really important to stay even keeled, and that's a skill set. Luckily, that I kind of learned throughout sports, and you know it's easier said than done, but I try to transition that into insurance sales, and that's helped me, you know, kind of get through some of those rough seasons. But you know, I just kept on trucking along, man, day by day, and then every day just got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better as my confidence grew. So
Man, that's it. There's so much to
Yeah, I
unpack
love it.
there.
One thing, just
Yeah.
very quickly, what I was thinking about was so many people get caught in a trap, right? And so part of the purpose for this podcast is to let people know like you don't have to just be killing it in one area. Like you can do good in every area of your life. And so I think a lot of people they get the 9 to 5, they make a big salary, but then like you said, they're waiting for Saturday. Bills are paid, everything's good, but man, they hate their job or it's the opposite. They got too much time and not enough money, right? So I think number one, like what Paul said, you got to have self-awareness to know, like, and even what you said, like, I'm not fulfilling my purpose. I'm not happy here. I'm not satisfied here. Like, there's more in me than my current situation. And I think that just having the self-awareness to say, okay, I got to do something else, despite even though there might be some financial pressures there or some uncomfortable situations there. And those are all the lessons that we learned through life and through sports and through mentorship. And it sounds like you had good parents to kind of speak words of life into you. But I think so many people they're just scared to take that step of faith for whatever reason. So they work that corporate job or that place where they don't want to be for 30 years. And then they have so much regret and shame because they never took that step. And so I think part of our purpose is like that, to just push people off the ledge. And like what you said, is like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You just go back to right where you were. And I think so many people are just scared to, because we live in a world now where everyone's watching you. Everyone can see what's going on. And I think we have such a fear of man and such a fear of what people think. But at the end of the day, it's about like, man, what are you called to do, and what are those closest to you? What do they think about you? What's your wife think about you? What's your kids think about you? That's at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And so maybe that's someone watching today. It's like take that step of faith. What's the worst that's going to happen? If you're unsatisfied and unfulfilled, it's probably for a purpose, probably because you're going to supposed to be in another place, another space, doing something different. So, yeah, thank you, man, for sharing. That's encouraging.
Dude, I'll tell you this much, man. For one, so good, dude. Because like at the end of the day, when we kind of unpack like what's the worst that's going to happen and we go as deep as that can go, sometimes as much as it's like, well, you shouldn't be focused on what you don't want to have happen. Well, it's not really a focus. It's just saying, let me unpack that real quick. And once you get to the worst that it could possibly be, and you're like, oh, I didn't die.
Yeah.
Like you'll be all right. And the crazy thing is like a lot of times when those things do fall apart or what we kind of like hope that doesn't happen does happen, man, that serves as like a character builder and for you to have such a higher level of faith because you didn't die, that now when you go tackle the next thing that's before you and maybe 2, 3 seasons above you, 2, 3 levels above you, well, now, man, you're best equipped to handle that because that actually did happen. And so there's always a good in everything. And sometimes that's the good in that thing that even if it did fall apart, well, for one, you didn't die, but you also learned that you didn't die, which is a faith builder. So now
Yep.
you go to the next thing, and that fear is not going to attack you in the same way, or when that attack tries to come, you've got a bigger shield of faith to kind of defend the doubts of the arrows of the doubt, discouragement, distortion, all those things that try to fly at you to keep you bound. But I think that's so powerful, man. And I just think that for anybody that's on here today, the encouragement is like serve the purpose that you've got with your full heart, because maybe that next purpose is not revealing itself because you're like, I want to move to something different, but I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know, is it this or is it that? Well, well, you just serve that one with your full purpose, and all of a sudden you get an interview, and for the reason you say yes, and you're like, I don't know why I said yes, it's my first interview, and that wasn't necessarily the purpose forever, but that was the next purpose, and you served out with your full heart, and then all of a sudden now you're living in what really your calling is supposed to be, which is running your insurance business, and now what you're doing in real estate because you served it with due diligence and your full heart, and I absolutely love that, bro. Talk about the real estate now. You've built a business with insurance, you've scaled that. Now with real estate, I mean, for me, I've had a couple conversations with you, and I'm just like, dude, what you're doing is such a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. It's also helping a lot of the people that want to, be involved in what you're doing, from buying a house to Section 8, the whole philosophy behind it. It's really great, dude. And I got like 12 guys outside this door right now that have come in today, and they want to learn about wholesaling, investments, and real estate and that kind of stuff. And when I told them, I said, man, at the end of the day, when stuff sucks, and I love what your mom said, because she's just give today all you got. Because so often our mind will work in such a way where we'll look at a present moment, and we'll start to make a long-term decision based off of a very short-term outcome that's going to come to pass. It's going to go away. Just endure it. Just go through it. And I told these guys, I said, man, when you're calling through, I said, the litmus test of being self-employed and doing this business is it comes down to when you get punched in the face, or when you feel like that feeling is so overwhelming that you want to just throw in the towel and you don't want to move forward. You got to stop and say, oh, this is good. I'm glad I feel this way. I'm glad that's happening. This is why most people quit. And this is why most people can't have the ability to create financial freedom, to be able to give back, be generous, create memories, do all the things that come with that by just pushing past that feeling. And your mom was just really kind of nudging, saying, hey, man, just get past that feeling. Just serve today, because tomorrow energy will be there. Tomorrow positivity will be there. Tomorrow morning, all of a sudden you're going to have exactly what you need for that next day. But don't start looking at tomorrow, the day after, the next 3 years based off how you feel in this moment, because tomorrow morning you're going to have the joy again. Tomorrow morning you're going to have what you need again. And so I love that, man. You talk about the real estate stuff and what you're doing there, and kind of how did that come about, and how did you go from being so hyper focused with insurance that's building, it's growing. I mean, heck, you're one of the biggest organizations in my group, and now you've transitioned out, and so quickly the real estate part is exploding. How does that happen? What did you do?
So I'm going to backtrack for a second, because basically what you were speaking about earlier, have you guys read this book? I literally just started this. It's crazy you're talking about this. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. Have you heard of it or
No.
read it? So the title kind of explains what the book's about. I literally just started it though, but it basically talks about whatever happens in your life is supposed to be in your life. The obstacle is the way,
That's good.
right? Because it's either going to be it's always a good outcome. Either it's a lesson learned, or it was supposed to work that way, right? So again, I just started it, but literally the same concept you're talking about right there just kind of it helps me come to peace whenever I come into like, a low season. I self-reflect. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to go through this right now. What are the learning lessons out of this? It's always good, just like you said. So the obstacle is the way. I'm really excited to read it. But same concept you're
Is
talking
that the
about.
same guy that wrote the book? I think Discipline Equals Freedom. Is it Ryan Holiday?
Discipline Equals Freedom is by Jocko. That's Ryan Holiday, but Jocko Willink wrote Discipline Equals Freedom, I
Okay,
think.
I think he wrote a different book on discipline. That dude, it's really, really good. Anyways, well, as you're talking, I'll see if I can find it, because that book was one of my favorite books. If it's the same author.
Yes, I just started. It's really good so far. Okay, so real estate. I think one thing that I did really well in with the insurance business, just business in general, is I'm the type of person that lives below my means, and I've always done that. I found not just in insurance, but a lot of entrepreneurs out there. It's even, we kind of, I don't know. I feel like this hustle culture kind of pushes people to get out of this W-2 life and become self-employed. I know a lot of people that have W-2 jobs, and they are financially free. They have financial freedom, because the definition of financial freedom is, having income where you're not stressed about your bills. You're not, and you can make decisions not necessarily based on money, right? That is financial freedom. So for me, I uh, I understood from day one when I got into the insurance business that I want to get ahead. And the best way for me to get ahead is to not increase my level of lifestyle as my income increased. So I did that for many years, many years. And, I've always wanted to be, I followed like the Grant Cardone, all these guys on Instagram and social media. And I felt very inspired by a lot of these guys. And, as I'm started looking into real estate, and I'm like, holy crap, if you want to buy a rental property, a lot of these lenders want you to put 20% of the purchase price down on a property. Like, a $400,000 house, that's $100,000. Who can just save 100,000? Like, that's crazy, right? So, so again, I've always wanted to be in real estate. I just didn't really have the financial means to play the real estate game, though, as an investor, right? So, in insurance, I lived way below my means, and as my income started increasing, my lifestyle didn't. I mean, humbly, I can say, within probably my third or maybe 2.5, 3 years of being in the business, I could buy any car that I wanted to on the market, cash, not a problem at all. And I was driving, a 2019 Toyota Corolla, like whipping around to my appointments. I had friends like say, don't you run like some big insurance agency? Like, why are you driving that? I'm just like, dude, I'm trying to get ahead, bro. Um, so what I did was with any excess funds above my lifestyle, I always had my emergency fund, always. But any excess funds above our what we needed, I put into just a traditional index fund, S&P 500 Fidelity Index Fund, and I dollar cost average that. What dollar cost averaging, if your followers or your viewers don't understand, that is simply just putting money. It doesn't matter whether the market's up or down. It's every single month, just consistently putting money into the market. And I did that since 2019. And I bought my first rental property in Florida in 2023 or 2024. Anyways, a lot of years of dollar cost averaging, right? And so luckily, I was able to be to get into the game of real estate. So I started real estate as an investor, okay, because I wanted to diversify my portfolio. And so I kind of started looking at different options, different strategies. I'm thinking, okay, should I do Airbnb? And I was turned off by that because there's a lot of entry costs, is what I call it. Entry cost basically means the cost of buying the home. They want 20% down. But with Airbnb, you've got to furnish it, right? You got to furnish the whole place, and there's a lot of costs associated with that. Furniture is not cheap. That kind of made me nervous. And then all like the state and city regulations that are happening with Airbnb, I didn't want to be put out of business overnight, because I do know some short-term rental. There's guys that are crushing that. I just felt like that wasn't for me. So I started looking at other different strategies, and we were kind of in a weird season as far as the economy goes. So I started researching more I don't think anything is recession proof, but more recession resistant strategies is what I was looking for. And that's kind of when I stumbled across Section 8. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. What is this? So for your viewers that might not know, Section 8 is basically a government subsidized program for people on low income. They get rental assistance through what's called a voucher. They have to qualify for this. They have to pass like a background check. There's a big waiting list. Some people wait years for this to get approved for this voucher. But once they have this voucher, basically they can take this voucher to any landlord or anyone who's willing to take them. They have a portion of the rent based on their income, the tenant, and then the Section 8 office, or HUD, the government, pays the remaining part of the rent for the tenant. So I was like, okay, this is really interesting. So I'm looking at a lot of different, I have this crazy obsessive personality. My wife gives me a lot of crap for it. Like when I get fixated on something, I don't let go of it. She'll be like, it's late at night, we're kind of in bed. I'm like, I've got podcasts going. She's like, will you turn that thing off? When we're at dinner, like I talk about it. Like I really do have an obsessive personality. So I was really obsessed with just gathering as much information as I can about this. And it got to the point where I was actually DMing a lot of people on Instagram that I saw that were, these Section 8 landlord influencers. And I actually flew around the country and I met with a lot of these guys. And I was talking to them about, their strategies and what they do. And one thing that I found out, or that I learned, was most Section 8 investors, what they do is they like to buy really kind of low end real estate, kind of in the kind of bad communities. There's a lot of crime, and it's because these properties are less than $100,000. So your 20% down is a $20,000 entry cost, which is a lot lower than like a nice piece of real estate. But the mindset behind it is like, oh, they're just Section 8 tenants. They're low income. Like that's just where they live. That's what they do. So, as I'm learning more about that, I'm like, okay, so most people are buying really low income houses, really, really cheap houses. And what I found with that is a lot of these investors, there's a lot more costs associated with that style or that specific strategy than what it looks like on paper. Because what really happens in with that strategy is that there's more crime in those neighborhoods. So it doesn't matter who you are. Nobody likes to live where there's crime. And a lot of people don't know the number one biggest cost for a landlord is turnover. If you are renting out a property and you have tenants that are leaving every single year, you're going to have vacancy costs because now you have a mortgage payment. When your tenant's not there paying rent, you have to pay this mortgage payment with no income. And then you have to clean up the property, new paint, new flooring, whatever damages were done. If you're turning over your property every year, you are not making money. You're not. And I was like, okay, so I don't really want to deal with these lower end. I don't want to have like lower end real estate. I don't want to deal with this turnover. I don't really like these hidden costs. So I was like, okay, what if I were to buy a little bit nicer real estate and I kind of used the same strategy? And that's kind of when I dove all in. I met a guy in Washington, D.C. that does the same thing. He buys like $800, $900 million properties and he rents them to Section 8. And I was like, what are you getting for rents? He's like, some of these rents, I'm renting them for like $6,000, $7,000 a month. I was like, Section 8 will do that? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, that is crazy. And he's like, you know what the best part about it is? I was like, what? He's like, Section 8, they're normal people. They're just like you and I. Good tenants want quality, good housing to stay in. So I have a quality product. That means I can really be selective with who my tenant is, and I can find that really, really good tenant who's going to take care of the property and is going to stay for a really, really long time. And there's really no real estate strategy out there where you're going to have a long-term tenant that is paying $6,000, $7,000 a month. No situation like that where you have a long-term tenant. Most tenants that are paying that kind of rent, it's a short-term temporary situation. Maybe they're building a house and they're just waiting it to be done. They're going to move out and go there. You don't get a long-term renter at that kind of rents. And I was like, wow, I really like this. So I live in Tampa. I started researching my market here, and I realized the numbers out here are very similar to what's out there and what he's doing in Washington, D.C. And I said, okay, if I'm going to buy a nice property in a nice neighborhood, and if this works, I'm literally going to diversify because I've been dollar cost averaging, for many, many years. I've got a healthy amount of money in this account. I'm going to diversify a lot. I'm going to move a lot of this money into some of this real estate with this strategy. So I bought the first property, nice neighborhood, gated community. And I advertise it to Section 8 tenants. People are like, you're going to put a Section 8 tenant in that house? I said, absolutely, I am. And, I'm starting to screen tenants. And I met a beautiful family, dude. Her home was destroyed in the hurricane out here. She's living in her car with 4 kids, had nowhere to go. Great landlord references. I checked with her landlord. She's like, he was like, I'm so sad I'm losing this tenant. The only reason I'm losing this tenant is because my house completely flooded and I don't have a place for her. And, she checked all the boxes. And I showed the property to her, and her kids were literally running around the house, like picking their rooms. They're like, Mom, we get a garage. Like they couldn't believe that they had a garage. Mom, we have a garage. Like they're picking the rooms, the closets like open up. They're kind of like walk-in closets. They're like, we have a walk-in closet. I can't believe this. And we ended up picking them. And literally, when I gave the keys to this tenant, she was like, can I give you a hug? I was like, absolutely. And she hugged it out. She was literally in tears. Her kids ran up to me. Dude, I was hooked after that feeling. I was like, this is crazy. I'm going to get an insane amount of rents. And like, I actually feel like I am doing such a good deed because the home that she lived in before was kind of a rougher area, and this home that I have is like really nice schools, nice community, and we're my Carolina and my wife Carolina, we're driving home, and I'm like, do you know what we just did to that family? Like their kids are going to better schools, they have really good neighbors, better influences. Like literally, what we just did just changed the trajectory of that family's entire life. And I'm like, all right, we need like 100 of these things. And we went crazy, dude. We just bought a ton of them. And that's kind of how we've grown into what we've got now. So yeah, man, I know I went off for a long time, but yeah, that's how I got to real
So
estate.
much good in that story, bro. I mean, the fact is like, you know, dude, like you found something that you can actually serve somebody and get passionate about it. Like when you said I was hooked, I mean, if what you're doing doesn't have you hooked, there's something out there that's going to get you hooked,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think that's just such a powerful thing. And and you know, the big takeaway I want to say real quick, and I want Brandon to speak to this is like you made a decision like I want to diversify. I want to get into real estate. And then you didn't just say I'm just going to stumble through it, man. You instantly was like I'm going to go get around people that can show me the way forward. I mean, we've always talked about this on the podcast like, you know, we are a product of getting around different people in our life that can say step here, don't step here, and they can help us cross these gaps to the next level and help us get there a lot more, you know, quickly. I mean, that's kind of the purpose behind it is our goal and desire as people join each week is to serve you where you can leave and say, I kind of know where to step and how to step and cross that gap a little bit better because I got some hindsight or I got some foresight from that person's hindsight. And dude, like you instantly were like, all right, I need to go get around somebody that's doing this at a high level. And that's the quickest path to get to success is plugging into different people. It wasn't like I'm just going to watch podcasts. That was great, but you actually intentionally went and got face to face with people that could speak into your life, that could speak into your business, that could speak into what you wanted to could speak into your next level. Now you're able to leave that and say, okay, this makes sense. And then the second point I want to make is that, dude, you really kind of stepped into kind of like a blue ocean. Like there's people that do section into a certain way. And I'd say like to your point, like most do it that way, right? Like 90+% do it that way. They get a house in a bad area. That's what I knew about it, right, Brent? Like
Yeah.
that's how I figured it was like, you say section 8, I think like D Street.
Yeah, right.
I think of different neighborhoods in my mind right now where I live that if you say section 8, I instantly, boom, go there.
Yeah.
I don't go, oh, Spring Valley Lake on the lake. I don't go like I just don't do that, right? And so the blue ocean is okay. I'm not going to compete with everybody else. I'm going to do something completely different, and it's going to provide significant value. And that's the same thing that we're doing with the real estate and everything else. Is like I've sat back and thought like, all right, this is how it's always working in the real estate industry, right? The realtor just makes this amount, but what if there's a bigger part where they could have a good lead strategy? What if they could recruit and not have to have all the liability and cost of owning a brokerage, but they can own their own brokerage without the liability and cost and recruit. And those people could recruit and in essence own their own brokerage. And then what if we could have lead gen and leadership and all this different things of personal growth and a leveled up life, a part of the DNA throughout it. And so I've been sitting there thinking like, there's a blue ocean here, right? And you took action on the blue ocean. And when you take action on a blue ocean, man, you swim a lot different.
Right.
Your stride looks a lot different. And so, man, I love it. There's so much value in what you just said in that story.
Yeah, 100%. A couple takeaways for me. Number one, you were the right person at the right time for the right opportunity. Because the worst thing I believe to be is that if the right opportunity comes your way and you're not prepared for it, I mean, that's the opposite of the feeling that you had after you handed over those keys. It's like, can you believe we weren't able to bless someone? And then the shame comes and all the other feelings come because you weren't prepared. And so when you said like, man, I've been living below my means for years and years and years. It's because you were preparing for the next thing that was ahead of you. And so when the right opportunity came, you were able to step in, not just a little bit, but you were able to say, all right, this is the right vehicle for me. Now let me go all in. And because you went all in and because you were prepared to go all in, you weren't able to just bless that family, but now you've been able to bless many, many families. And so for me, as I'm reflecting through my journey, I'm like, okay, the one thing you never want to be is ahead of where you're supposed to be, right? Because when you get the spotlight or you get the opportunity or when you get the pressure, it will crush you because you don't have the right character to step into that platform. Or you never want to be the person that's unprepared for the opportunity that's before you. And so for those listening, it's like, man, going back to the very beginning, like if you serve the season you're in now all the way and not thinking so far ahead in the future, if you steward the blessings that you have now and take care of, your finances and your resources you have now, then at one day when you're being faithful with the little, like the scripture says, like you'll be faithful with much. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And man, I just think it's a really cool story just from the beginning. It's just a story of faithfulness of what I'm taking away. You just been faithful in every season of your life. And now you get to, build not only a massive business and your family gets blessed because of it, and your future kids are going to get blessed because of it. But all these tenants that probably couldn't afford to live in a gated community and send their kids to good schools because you had a heart to not just make a profit, but actually bless people and care about people. And you're seeing lives change. And really you're seeing, someone who may have never got an opportunity to live in that neighborhood or to go to those schools. Now they're getting that opportunity, and then their kids will never have to go back to where mom used to live, and then their kids will never have to go back to where grandma used to live, and you're changing generations to come. And so I just think it's a good thing, and really it's just a call to all entrepreneurs and business owners. Like, this isn't just about us. Like, if you're building something big and it's all about you, well, I mean, good luck to you. But the truth is, the most fulfilled you can be is when you're serving and when you're blessing other people. And that's when I get the most benefit. Like, I didn't start the organization that I run for me to get a platform. No, I did it because, man, I wanted to use the gifts that I feel like God's given me to bless other people. And then you're able to see the fruit of that. And then in turn, I get more blessed because of it. And I know the same is true for you. You're not building, this insurance and real estate just for selfish purposes. Like, you build it to bless other people, and the fruit of blessing other people is you get rewarded in the end. And so, man, thank you for sharing, Isaiah. That's good. It's good stuff, man. I'm encouraged. I'm inspired.
Yeah, you and me
So,
both, bro. Isaiah, how many houses do you have now? How many doors do you got?
So, I mean, because of this, we've kind of grew into this property manager role too, right? So, there's a lot of investors that are like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. How do I do that?" So, we have our own rentals, but then we also are managing other rentals. The local Section 8 housing authority here likes the way that we take care of our tenants. They like the housing that we provide, so they send us a lot of business too. So just as a whole organization, we're right under 90 right now. I think it's like 88 or 89 total.
oh,
So
Yeah, and that's over what period of time?
since 2023.
I
two
love it.
years. That's
A year and a
crazy.
half, yeah, two
Yeah.
years. Man, that is great, dude. And I mean, what a story for anybody that's on here. It's like, maybe I'm too young, I'm too old. It's like, no, you're in the time right now that you're called to be in it. And if it's not you, then who, right? And if not now, then when? And I think
Right.
that's the whole philosophy is like, let's just move, let's go after the level that's before us. And so, any kind of last minute tips, dude, like that you can give anybody that's on here that maybe a characteristic, the number one quality or virtue or value that you believe that's really kind of set you up to go out there and see that kind of result, because that ain't normal, dude. It ain't normal to in a 2 year period of time have almost 100 doors. And I know that you've also blessed a lot of investors too that are able to come alongside you and kind of serve that mission and purpose to help more people, because they're able to say, hey, I'll put 20% down, get that property, section it in, and you kind of help facilitate it. They get to kind of glean off of your system and heart that you've got as far as knowing how to interview, find the right person, place the right person, manage all that. I mean, so like it's a beautiful kind of system that you've got in place that's blessing the tenant and also the investor, and it's allowing everything to kind of grow and flourish. Like, what would be kind of like a big, if I say, man, let's say I bump into you, right? I fly to Florida because that's where you're at. I'm in Tampa Bay today. You're at Starbucks getting your double shot espresso. I run into you. Hey, you're Isaiah from the Level Up Life podcast, bro. Tell me what's the biggest tip you can give me to help me go out there and level up my life? What would that be?
Man, I don't as I'm like, you're talking, I'm trying to think of how I want to answer this. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but it's the truth, and I can't think of something else right now. The biggest tip for sure is um, when you're going through seasons of life, whether it's good or it's bad, it's what lessons can you take out of it, and I think, if you're very aware, you can always take a lesson out of it, just because I think um, my gosh, what he said earlier was like, you don't want to be like too far ahead, or you also don't want to be behind, right? But it takes a mentally aware person to be able to be in that season, because you have to be able to recognize opportunities as they're there too. So I think, just um, all the experiences that you go through, ups, downs, it creates who you are supposed to be today. And try not to go through tough times like almost having like a victim mentality, like, why is this happening to me? Everything happens to me. It's, I'm going through this for a reason, and trying to find out what that reason is. Because if you do find out what that reason is, you just it just makes you a little bit more mentally aware. And honestly, there's a sense of peace when you go through a tough experience, knowing that something positive is going to come out of it, right? So I just think through all the I've been through a lot of downtimes, a lot of days crying. Honestly, I mean, as a man, I'll say that, a lot of days crying in the insurance business, not feeling like it was for me. Um, Even a lot of troubles in the real estate, feeling like, I don't know if this is going to work out. But, just kind of pushing through day by day, taking lessons out of those bad days. And it just makes you a better person, man. I don't know. And yeah, dude, I'm sorry, man. But yeah, that's what I got to say, dude.
Well, I think that's spot on, man. Very, very well said. That book, by the way, it was Ryan Holiday that I read. It's called Discipline is Destiny.
Gotcha.
Probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. So I haven't read that book, but I know the author has got a great way at articulating and diving into concepts that will help take you to the next level, because that book was really, really good. Last couple things, quick fire questions. One, what's the best book you've ever read? The most impactful book you've read?
I've read so many books,
I
man.
obviously didn't prep you for none of these questions, bro. We just
Yeah.
got out of the hill
So,
to dive into it.
a book that I just finished. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about business. Okay, I just finished this book right here. It's called Main Street Millionaire. I literally couldn't put this book down, by Cody Sanchez.
Okay.
Basically, what she talks about is there's a big opportunity right now. We have the biggest transfer of wealth happening right now. And there's a lot of people that are seniors, that are business owners, and they're retiring. And a lot of these kids that grow up in these households see mom and dad working in the business, and they're like, I don't like business. True, they just don't, or they don't like that specific business. And a lot of these people are just shutting their businesses down every single day. They say there's 10,000 people a day that are turning 65. So that book essentially is about seeing those opportunities, and being able to take over those businesses with little to no cash, using different kind of creative financing and different strategies. So the reason why I picked up that book is because as I'm running this big rental portfolio, I'm looking at a lot of our costs right now, and I'm like, geez, we are spending a ton of money on air conditioning, HVAC issues. We're dealing with a ton of lawn care. And I'm like, I know there's a lot of business owners out here that have these companies that are wanting, to get rid of them. So I'm just gathering data, right? So I'm like, okay, how can I keep a lot of these costs in house? They call it vertical integration, where you basically have a business, and you have different lines of revenue, kind of all within the same ecosystem. So if I could serve our own properties with our own, HVAC company, our own lawn care company, it just kind of it improves profitability. So I've been really kind of in that season right now, and that's what I'm actively looking for. So that was a really good book that I couldn't put down. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs, and the hardest part is getting started. Most people quit in the very beginning, right? Because that's where the hardest season is. But if you can already acquire a business or a company out there that's already has a client base, kind of already has its marketing going, and they just kind of need someone to step in and take it over, there's a lot of opportunity out there like that. So, yeah, man, that was a book I literally could not put down.
Just open up the door to be a repeat guest, because man, that's a whole nother podcast that we can jump into, because I think you said it well, bro. Like, and the cool thing is that the HVAC company that, let's just say, because you're gonna find it, and you're gonna acquire a good company, and that's gonna be a blessing to the person that wants that company to be acquired, right? And when that company is acquired, that company now gets brought into your ecosystem with your values, with the DNA, right? With the way you guys run things, the structure, the systems, the standards. And now that company is going to be able to flourish. So those employees of that company, the clients of that company, the future clients, future employees are all going to be blessed because it's brought into that ecosystem. And I think that's a powerful thing for anybody to look at, is as you look at your business that you're running in, is like, where are expenses being held? What are the companies and services are taking some of those expenses and saying, well, what would it look like for me to take that on, bring that a part of my ecosystem? It's all business, right? You're going to have the same kind of systems and stuff like that, CRMs, lead gen, whatever, to be able to serve them. But now you're able to kind of, bring in profit there. It helps it with a healthier business, bless more people. And that's really kind of what I'm doing with the real estate thing with all the different branches is the same thought. Like even with branding, okay, if we're going to have branding, let's have it in-house. If we're going to have lead gen, have it in-house. Marketing, have it in-house, and then bring it into board where it's a good ecosystem. So then you could even bless other companies for different revenue that's generated from that company. So it just kind of creates this great effect. And so I love it, man. What a great point. Last two questions. What's the best Netflix series that you've ever watched? For anybody that wants to be entertained, they're like, I've missed one. Is there a top Netflix series that you've watched?
So it's not on Netflix, but it's on Max. I've been watching oh my gosh, what's the zombie? Oh my gosh. Um
Zombie Casey, do you know what he's talking about? Max?
ah, I'm so sorry, dude. What's it called? It's at the tip of my tongue. Um
Well, I'm pretty sure if you chat GPT zombie and Max, that'll give you guys the answer. All right. The other question, what's the best vacation spot
I thought he was
that
gonna go
you've
like
gone
Love Is
to?
Blind or something.
the best vacation spot?
Yeah, best destination place that you've been to. I know you
Barcelona.
kind of have done some traveling. Barcelona.
Barcelona. Yeah, I loved Barcelona, dude. I we did a well, I went on a vacation there. This was years and years ago. And I fell so in love with the people, the food. One thing I really loved out there was uh, in America, we're very, very money driven. We're consumers. That's the culture of America. And it was kind of a breath of fresh air just to see everyone just kind of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone here is like, dude, they're chasing money to pay bills, to buy things. Like we're just a very, we consume, we consume. And it was so relieving. When I went out there on vacation. So you get everything. You get like the nightlife, you have the beaches, you have the hiking, you've got everything. The people are amazing. The food was amazing. Um, but when I was out there, I was like, I don't think I want to get on my flight back. Like I was looking at jobs, dude. I was like, I think I want to stay here.
I got a new season I'm going in.
Yeah. That was years and years and years ago. But
That's
best place I've ever been to in my life, Barcelona, Spain.
Well, I'll tell you guys what, man. I think I've heard that from a couple people recently. I had another guy that just went to South Africa, and he said the same thing. He's like, "Do people just like they just care about each other?
Yeah.
They're just like friendly to the one, each other." And he's like, "It's just different." And I'm like, "Man, that's probably a good experience for anybody to have. Is like go outside of your normal state and go explore different countries and see kind of their culture. Because sometimes it's a culture that's going to reflect a better version of you. But man, I appreciate you, dude. It's been so good. Thank you for hopping on, man, and sharing today.
Likewise, man. I really appreciate it. I got a lot of good takeaways from you both as well. So anytime you guys need me on, I'm happy to share, dude.
Bro,
So
you're definitely getting back on the last, it's like when you get to the end of the series and it's like, oh, there's a cliffhanger. That must mean that there's another one coming. Well, there's another one coming, dude. And so I appreciate you, man. Love you, dude. Guys, make it a big week. Be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.